Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. Yeah, welcome to Astral Wars. Anyway, I want to welcome back Paul White Dragon and also Diane G, who
Oh,
is known as Kumo Observer. Yeah,
I
and
got a lot
Diane.
of hair, so it's not
Okay,
because
there.
I want to cover it.
it's all right. You do what you feel comfortable with.
The hat is very becoming. I
It
almost
is.
joined you because I haven't been able to shower since the workermen's have been here. So
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. So yes, welcome everybody. I am going to be doing the mechanical stuff on this show today. Just not feeling up to doing too much more, and so I'm going to let these wonderful people sort of go for it. And Paul, just let me know when you're ready for the pictures and all that. I'll put them up, and I'll come back to sign us off when the time comes. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, well, today's subject is the Orion Wars, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
let me just get the records open. We do have Mark and Jason, the two librarians who volunteered to do this for us. I mean, they said that they would stick around until we're done with this thing that we're all doing here. So just 1 second. All right, it's done. Records are open.
Okay.
Okay, so Orion Wars. That's kind of like a very touchy subject. It started with a long time ago when I had with Diana. I started doing in her other show with the other two ladies with the Akashic stuff. I started doing an investigation about what I was kind of doing with the Akashic stuff, and I started asking Diana the super hard questions because she seemed to be connected there. And the other two ladies were like, "Oh my god, I hope
Yeah, and Diana's Wonder Woman.
he doesn't want to ask me or her because So, anyways, that's how it started. So then I met Diane G, who's another superwoman with the Akashic stuff. And then we had a series of emails going back and forth. And, since the subject is, the last time it all started in Lyra. And it's how it coalesced into the entry point for a lot of us, and it certainly was for me, and I'm sure it was for you, Diana and Diane. So it started as I was some kind of like farmer, and then the bad guys came in, and and then
And then you kick their butt.
and they they made a mess of it. And then but I was fighting back then, according to you, with pitchforks and stuff. I hope I got a bunch of them.
hey, Poland won the war that way. So
No, I mean that's how it got started with me. And then it's one of the things that and I'm going to tell them about this, Diane. I hope you don't mind. I mean, Diana made a list of all the stops I made and all the planets and stuff from Lyra all the way to Earth. And this is one of the things that she does. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, get a hold of her on her website. She has her email. Send her email and see what you can, what you can work up, and then she'll take care of you. So anyway, it was a long list. It went from 27 entries. And it started in Lyra with Sulafat. That's probably where I was a farmer. And then I jumped into the Pleiades. Pleiadion, which is, according to Diane G, was some kind of like
A vacation star system.
vacation system. They must have had pretty good technology and stuff. It was pretty peaceful. And then I started going to Arcturus, and then I went to the Pleiades at Taigera again, which is another high high tech place in the Pleiades. And then I went to Arcturus, and then I went to Andromeda, which I don't know what happened there. I mean, Andromeda is a long ways away. And then Arcturus, and then I went to Andromeda again, Arcturus, Andromeda again. So I went back there like 3 times. I don't know what I was doing. So, anyways, I did. So then I went to Arcturus, and then to the Pleiades at Electra, and Arcturus, and Andromeda again. So I like to know what I was doing in Andromeda. I really don't know. In Arcturus, Andromeda, I went Andromeda again. I went to Arcturus and Andromeda, Arcturus, and then Maldek.
Mm.
And Maldek is the planet that used to be between Jupiter and Mars that right now is a asteroid belt. There used to be a planet. There was conflict there, and somehow it got blown up. And this is where I started asking Diana the information, hey, what's happening? And what it turned out, me and her were running some kind of spaceship, getting people off the planet. Remember that, Diana?
Yeah, I mean, I can't forget that because it is part of the missions that I'm on that are soul retrievals.
Right, and all this is based on what's in the records. I mean, this whole business has been what's in the records and not what somebody psychically gets or whatever. So, me and Diana were doing this. So we got some business from way back then. Yeah. And then we took them to some kind of space station and they created a bunch of problems and got kicked over to Mars. And then from there, we came to Earth. So,
and here we are.
you want to give them a little bit of your trip, Diane?
Diane
My
G.
trip? My own trip. Yeah. This is confusing.
I know you've been all over the place too. So.
For myself?
Yeah. Well,
okay. I also have a list.
Just briefly, if you want to.
So I started in Lyra as well. And then most of my lifetimes were in the Pleiades, in Merope and in Maya. But I also had lifetimes in Hadar, or the Beta Centauri, and Andromeda as well. And Andromeda, Pleiades, Andromeda, Beta Centauri most of the time.
Me too.
Okay, I'll do that later.
Things just run together when you get old.
Yeah. My entry point to Earth is actually not Maldek, not Mars. It was in Venus. So I was a Venusian before I came to Earth. Mm-hmm. And usually that's the entry point for us. But interestingly, I had just one lifetime in Orion, which is our topic for today. But I stayed away from the chaos. I went to the most peaceful star system. I went to Mintaka, where I know Aley is from as well.
That's in Orion, one of the stars. Yeah, it's. Yeah. I don't know if Diana has one of these long lists. Maybe you should get one, Diana. So talk to Diane G and see. Maybe you can come up with something. So the whole thing is what it stated to me is that I don't think I was involved that heavy with the Orion, the cell, but then. You said something. Go ahead.
Actually, I think that you were, because during the Orion Wars, the Black League resistance, which is the resistance that's based on the Orion belt, they were not exactly aligned to the light, but the Galactic Federation of Light were helping them somewhat to fight the Draconian Empire. And I think, Paul, that you were an Arcturian that time. Yeah. And you were one of the people who were helping. You were one of the people who were helping the Black League resistance.
So I know that one of my entry points is definitely through Betelgeuse, through several different lifetimes. And that's the elbow, right? There's a star at the throat for Orion. I can't even pronounce it. Mycium, something like that. But Betelgeuse is in the raised hand. It's the shoulder star. And then we have a star at the elbow and a star in the hand, but those aren't of the brightest stars.
Yeah,
So,
Mesa.
and
Meissa.
Mhm.
yeah,
That's in Orion.
throat,
The throat. So
right?
for those who were not here during the previous episode, so we were talking about how the Draconians came to Orion because they were trying to control the galaxy, basically.
Yeah.
And the resistance or the more peaceful races are settled in the Orion's belt. And the other parts of Orion, including Betelgeuse that you're talking about, Diana, has
Mhm.
been a
The
part
red
of
star,
the Draconian. Yeah.
right? The
It
blinking
was a
red star.
part of the Draconian Empire.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
They got whooped up.
Yeah.
Well, and he's
They
getting
got
ready to
taken
bring
out to the shed and had a nice, good talking too.
Yeah. But for a lot of us, the Orion star system or constellation rather, they caused a lot of trauma for many of us.
That is correct.
because they're warriors of light, right?
Mhm.
And in that warrior pretense, they're always prepared for battle, albeit spiritual, and they use spiritual tools. But they're first off, Orion is the huntsman, so he's going out looking. He's not afraid of the fight. He's not afraid of getting gored by the boar if that's who he's after, right? Which would take him to the constellation of Taurus. And I'm Poniatowski from home, right? Which is the last king of Poland. Well, the eye of the bull is King Poniatowski. It's named after my great, 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 great grandfather because he did so much for education and he tore apart um, uh, the royal kingdom of Poland and made it a democracy. Started democracy in 1756. That's when he abdicated the throne. So there's, a soldier has to do what a soldier has to do. And Orion is doing that. Now, that belt is where the waist gets cinched. And there's 3 stars through there that are the major stars. And Mitaka is one of them. It's the farthest on the right. 3 stars to the right and straight on till morning. And what do you think Peter Pan is talking about when he says that to Wendy and Michael John when they take off to go to Never Never Land, right? So even that fairy tale has its roots in the stories of the gods in the sky.
Yeah. All right. So let's Orion. It is the hunter, and it's Aley back there. Or you can put the picture of the archer that I sent you. That one. Yeah, I made that one up. And I mean, that's just pointing the way that the stars look, and the people they used to look at the sky and, oh, that looks like a guy holding a bow, That's Orion. I mean, that's how they name these constellations and things. Mm-hmm. And then for he's the hunter. I mean, he is the hunter. So just for those who don't know about the Draconians, I call them Drax. Let's put the first picture up, Aley, of the white one, if you got it. Yeah. That's kind of like what these guys look like. I mean, the eyes are just like that, and they may not necessarily look this ugly, but they're real ugly.
He is, but it's a face you can get used to, because think about how many people have lizards and snakes as pets.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but the face, I couldn't get the AI to give me the correct face. This is the closest one I could get it to.
Oh, okay.
The face is more flat and more humanoid looking, but you could tell that they're kind of like a dragon. These are the white royals, the really mean ones, the ones that are pushing all the buttons.
More like Walmart.
yeah, they prefer to work behind the scenes, and they come in, they overtake, and then they set up client races. The people that they either haven't killed or enslaved. And by the way, the concept of slavery came from them through Orion.
Yeah.
This is how it got to the Earth. And then the other picture of the other lizard guy, the brown one, that one, those are the soldiers. They're not the same. They're kind of in the same family, but those are the ones that they're told that they don't have a lot of independent thought to them. They kind of like go over there and they go, do this, and they go do it, whatever. And that's basically what these guys are. In
Well, think about a lumbering alligator or a crocodile. And,
right.
It's like, I got to go there and I got to go there. And they keep their babies in their mouths and they're just trying to get things accomplished without being seen, right?
Right. So, I like to post the first Akashic record question is like, in which part of Orion did they first come into the Orion Nebula? Not the nebula, the Orion constellation.
I'm being shown Beetlejuice. There were two entry points, Beetlejuice, and I'm not sure what the opposite star is at the bottom.
Rigel.
But,
Rigel.
yeah.
Rigel, the blue star. And I've got to tell you a story soon.
Okay.
But first, let's do this.
Okay. So I was shown two. First one was the Beetlejuice and then the Rigel. They started with Beetlejuice, but it was almost at the same time as they entered Rigel, which is interesting because those two are where the slavery trade is worst in the entire system.
Wow. Diana?
Well, the first thing I was getting was a blue ray. Now, Beetlejuice basically looks like it's winking and blinking, red, blue, and then a white and a red, blue, because it's a cluster of 3 stars there. But as far as that goes, when one goes, they're all going. They could have already exploded. They're just so far away from us that we haven't gotten the light of that explosion yet. They're not really sure. In spite of having all these wonderful telescopes and orbiter probes and all of that, right now, they still don't know the answer to that. So in that star, I also see you coming in through Beetlejuice first. And honey, you do have a warrior spirit. And that is, it makes sense that would be a place where you would get a foundation, but also be able to switch the gear, if you know what I mean, take it to the light working side, which is basically what has happened with Orion. They are warriors of light. So some, not all do, of course not, but some, as you, cross over into that tool seeking, able to call on angels and guides and higher sources and use candle work and magic swords that are not about stabbing and wounding, but rather about cleansing and healing and scraping away debris, and such as a rosary would be, or things of that nature, just mandala beads and sacred geometry and a basic understanding of that without even know how you know it.
Yeah, I think Diane G, it's mostly like on the medical side now.
Yeah.
But all warriors are healers, but not all healers are warriors. So
Right.
that goes hand in hand. This is very interesting. Um, so they came in through Beetlejuice and Rigel. Now, in this book here that we're reading, the Prism of Lyra, there's a paragraph, and it was pretty dark. I mean, because they went in there and there was like basically three groups. One of them was the dark ones that were working with the Drax, and they subjugated and went along with them. And then you had the ones that said, okay, they're in charge, so let's not make any trouble. And then you had the resistance, and somehow the resistance got named the Black League because they thought that they could take all that information and just hold on to it, but then it would leak out, and then once it would leak out, they would be found out, and then once that happens, the bad guys will go in there and beat the daylights out of them and crush them down. So, I mean, that went on for a very, very long time, probably millions of years. I don't know if any one of you can see what's in the records. I mean, how long was this conflict?
It still is.
Because everything is happening at once.
Right. It is the polarity of the base of that triangulation. And the resistance is part of that in the polarity. And what leaks out and gets to the top of that triangle is the higher source, where Merlin is. He is part of the Black League. And he is in there, as is Pendragon and all of the stories that go along with that.
Their symbol is the black dragon, by the way, just so you know. The other thing that this book talked about, and this is, I mean, I came across this because right after I participated in a battle using the Athena, and their armada was totally destroyed. They started looking to see who the heck I was. and then I started seeing this. It was like a never-ending line of creatures and things that would appear to me just before I would fall asleep, and then I would like, whoa, what's going on? So I called Michael. I said, hey, Michael, what's going on here? This is like, and he came out, he gave us that blue shield that I told you about, Diana. It's like a bubble that shrink like a skin. It prevents that. It's permanent. And he goes, this is permanent protection. So if you ever want that, you can ask him to give you that. It's like a blue bubble that shrink like a skin, like a second skin on you, that keeps your soul safe in the transition between, being awake and dream state. Now, I've seen so many aliens. I started out with the you ever seen the Lord of the Rings, that the Eye of Sauron thing, the big fiery thing, like that's what I saw. So I took my sword and I stuck it with it, and I heard a growl, and then I said, "What the heck?" And Michael said, "Well, you just took away their ability to remote view you until they turned back to the light." And it went on like this, and then the lizards stopped coming, and then I started seeing all these other creatures, aliens and stuff. And then and one of them, it was some black magic. And I thought, black magic, these aliens are messing with black magic. And then in this book on the Prism of Lyra, they talked that was very common back then. Black magic, that they could do this kind of stuff.
They burned us at the stake over the centuries. They burned us at the stake and called it all black magic, even when it was just medicine. And so, you know, it's an encompassing term because it's something that is hidden. There's so many ways to interpret that term, black magic, because it is hidden.
The dark arts. I see that
Mhm.
as just misuse of energy.
It
Dark
it certainly is. It certainly can be. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. But I also see it from Merlin's point of view. He's my main guide. And all that he knows and all that he knew, and it was outlawed. It had to become black magic. It had to be secretive. So the two terms, black magic, are basically interchangeable, even though one denotes evil portents and the other one is about keeping it a secret.
Yeah.
Because I know that Merlin is not evil of doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then it also said that a lot of the sword and sorcery kind of stories originated from that area in the use of swords. I mean, my thing is I work with energy swords. I mean, I have 3 different types that I use. I think all warriors who are associated with Archangel Michael have swords. You may even have one, Diana and Diane.
You know what just came to mind when you said swords is the Star Wars lightsaber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like energy swords.
Yeah.
And then and then we have the Orion Empire, which were the bad guys in that area, and then we have the story of Star Wars,
Yeah.
which is the Orion conflict. That's where it came from.
Absolutely. You know, when I was reading Lyra, I definitely was going through every single Star Wars and even a couple of Star Trek episodes, and it's like, oh my God, George Lucas is amazing.
He must have
He was channeling.
Yes. And consider he was after this stuff since he was like 12 years old. So what geniuses our science fiction writers were. Jules Verne, how much of that is true to this day? You know, we have cars that could go underwater. We have submarines. All those things that didn't exist that he saw. Journey to the Center of the Earth. Now people are trying to crawl underneath the earth and get down deep inside. And now there's an understanding of the Hopi prophecy and who the ant people are, and you know, that whole creation story that we've been told through the guise of religion. When we look at that, well, Noah took 1 or 2 of each animal and he took his family and he went to and he got saved, but those who didn't died. In the Hopi prophecy, they became the ant people and they all went underground. Did they turn into ants? No, but they live in this crystalline structure underneath and then survive the cataclysm and then come back and repopulate the earth, which is what was expected of Noah and his family. So they all intermingle without actually telling us the truth about all of our ancestors above. I would love to get into the vault at the Vatican. And hopefully this is the Pope that's going to bring it all out. Let's see. Yes.
Yeah, there's
divulgence.
A lot has been locked up in the Vatican.
Ah.
Wait, I have a question, Diana. So you were talking about the Hopi tribe?
Yes.
I was wondering about that because I'm not very familiar with the tribe at all. But I recall that you had a reading with Paul that connected Maldek to the Hopi tribe. Can you please tell us about that?
Okay, so first let's go to the Anasazi. because that is the foundation. And who are the Anasazi? I have been shown that they are star people, as were Zoroaster and Mazda.
Ahura Mazda.
Yeah, thank you. Ahura Mazda. I had to think of Star Trek and look at her face first. Ahura Mazda, and he's the one flying the machine. And the Anasazi are connected to that. So through the Stargate, through the wormholes, through the what we see as portals when we ourselves are on these journeys, and it's a spinning, and all you see is the white light inside, and everything around is a dark indigo color or black or purple or something deep. But you're in the light. It's not black in the black hole. It's filled with light. Well, that connection goes to the Anasazi. The Anasazi, the Hopi, are descendants of the Anasazi. The Anasazi just disappeared. Where did they go?
Different dimension.
Through the
Boom.
wormhole. Because what they were getting away from, and that takes them to Orion with a different perspective on how to fight as a light worker, right?
Yep.
Interesting.
This is so interesting. And then another thing that this book talks about is how they became so technically ahead, but not very spiritually ahead. And then they figured out ways to control the astral bodies of people. And then they came up with some kind of shield that they put around one of those places where, the people couldn't exit. Let's say you died, and then I'm free. No, you're not. They captured you with a force field, and then they kept you there. And eventually,
Which is slavery. They were being held against their will.
Well, not only that, but they kept recycling the people for the slavery trade. And one of the things, let me tell you,
the polarity that occurs. What you're talking about is that polarity, which is so much a part of every race. Okay? I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to remind that that's where the base is in that polarity. That's the foundation of everything that blasted out of the prism of Lyra.
Yeah.
When that godlike Lyran energy started to think, ooh, somebody needs to be in control of all of this. And the others said, no, we have free will. And so that was the first guise of polarity. And that thinking created such an issue that shattered the prism. And as it fragmented out, other nations were built on stars.
Yeah. At this point, let me ask the next question from the records. There was some kind of trap or some kind of trap that kept the souls tied to a specific system, star system. How did they actually dismantle that, or is it still there?
I was getting that it was dismantled when Orion turned to the light. Well, the entire constellation turned to the light.
There's always hangers on, but I agree. That's
Good.
the way I see it too.
The reason I brought that up is because during one, before I got involved with all the ETs and stuff, me and Michael used to go out. We used to be like buddies doing stuff. So one of the missions that I participated in, we went to the moon, and inside the moon there was one of those machines that had one of these soul catchers. And the trap was, it looked like a tube of light, a tunnel with a light at the end and all this kind of stuff. And it kind of even felt like love at the end. So the souls would get drawn into it. And once you got in there, they captured you, they took away all your memories, and then they put you back into the reincarnation thing. That was dismantled also. The whole mission was to dismantle that. So that's no longer here available.
That was Earth's moon.
That's at the moon. That's
the Earth moon.
A few years ago. That's
Wanted to be clear.
Years ago. It's no longer there.
Right.
Wow.
It was one of the missions, and that ties in with this stuff. So I wonder how long they had kept that going. It's like really incredible.
But that also brings up the question: how did it get here? So from Orion,
they must have brought it. The White Royals were here on the planet up until, gosh, when was it? Like 2 years ago.
That's pretty recent.
When I met Dr. Gale, and at the time, I called Dr. Gale and I said, "Gale, there's something going on. There's really." So she goes, "Yeah, there's going to be there's a big mission going," and they went, and that was the time that they got rid of all the ones that were on the planet, and there was at the time there was 115 of them, and each 115 got about assigned 100 people to get rid of one. But see, at the time, because I was working with Michael, I have already dispatched 3 of them myself with the sword. Wow. So by myself, because he was training me. And then I get involved in this, and oh yeah, you got 99 of the people helping you. I said, I don't need 99 already. I already did away with 3 of them. I said, no. Anyways, they picked them up and they kicked them all out of the earth, and then they kicked them all. They kept running away to the moon. They got kicked out of the moon. They went to Jupiter. There was a big base in Jupiter, and that got shut down. I don't know how many were there. I didn't bother to ask how many, but they got shut down, and that's out of the whole solar system. There were no more. Now that doesn't mean that there's not there. The people, the humans, and the other ones that were working with them, they're still around, and they're part of the governments, and they call the secret governments and all that kind of stuff. But they don't have they no longer have the button pushers at the top. It's like you take a snake and you cut the head off, and the snake starts thrashing around. They don't have a head anymore.
But the body still have nerves.
But the body's still thrashing, making all kinds of problems. So it gets really interesting, and then it goes up. A lot of these people that goes along with they came from Maldek, and all the guys that we rescued, Diana. I mean, I feel pretty bad.
So, I just want to give a brief explanation on what's the connection between Orion and Maldek, because we're talking interchangeably. So, when Orion turned into the light, not everyone was on board. Some of them didn't want to turn to the light, and out of respect for their free will, they just transferred. And where they transferred to is to our solar system, which was in Maldek. So think of Maldek as the Australia of our solar system. So they got kicked out, basically, of Orion. They went to Maldek, and then they blew the planet up. That's how chaotic some of these people or these beings were.
They were troublemakers.
Yeah.
And then, you know, back then, me and Diana got involved with. We got hired to take as many of them in the ship as we could before the planet blew up. Remember that? And then we took them to some space station and then went to Mars. Oh, they went to the space station and they caused so many problems there. They got kicked out. They were moved to Mars, and then, you know, from Mars they
came to Earth as well.
they didn't quite blow up Mars, but you know they blew up a large portion of the atmosphere. Mars used to have oceans and stuff, and a lot heavier atmosphere, and it even had a magnetic magnetosphere like the Earth that keeps the radiation from the sun. Well, that doesn't exist in Mars, so everybody had to go underground because all the radiation from the sun would kill anything that's on the surface. So it's basically, you know, all the civilizations that exist on Mars are underground.
That's how they survived. They went underground.
Yeah, and the ones that were there, they wind up here on Earth, and then you know people like Hitler and Mussolini, and
A lot of the politicians
all
right
the,
now, actually,
all the
many of them came from Maldek. Many of them came from Orion.
all the
So
Nazis and everything else.
But they came from somewhere else first and developed these uglier sides because they were able to gain some strength when they got to that top half of Orion, right? From the belt and down, we have giant blue, supergiant stars. And that blue light is shining through. This is how I see it. And that is the polarity is still there, but it is like, if you come through this way, you're going to meet in the middle and you're going to be spiritual. If you just come in this way, and then you stay. You stop and you don't think outside of the box. But if you come in through Rigel, you begin to think out of the box. In Aldebaran, and there's another system in which that they can come through and get that same thing. Okay? So the sanctity of those blue supergiants brings in a big light and puts them on the resistance side. You know, to quote Star Wars.
This all ties together, and Aley's been doing her own little thing yesterday. I caught that show where she was talking about all this. I guess the people who are authoritarian. I can't even say it. She couldn't say it.
authoritarian.
Yeah, right. And that's like a movement toward the Earth. You know, I think personally that's just the last gasps of the bad guys. And here, Shoshi, maybe she can talk a little bit about that. The show you had yesterday, Aley.
Yeah, it was just a deep dive because we're currently in the throes of the authoritarian regimes throughout the world, including our own self, and how they're being taken over by one person who has people behind him and what they want to do. The good news today was that particular person has been stopped from letting people leave this country that are from other countries and are being protected, and that some of the courts are still helping stop some of this ridiculous behavior. But I also think it has a lot to do with the mental inability of these authoritarian people, the narcissism and so on, that creates all these problems. It's all about power. It's about money. It's about influence. They don't care about the little guy at all. And that's probably the same way on the astral plane, or, you know.
Right? The stunted soul.
Mhm.
Yeah, this ties all together in
Mhm.
the believe it or not, I mean, you're doing part of this, Aley, because the progression of where these people came from and how they wound up here, they
Mhm.
were involved in Atlantis, in the Roman Empire, and places like that. The crazy, the real crazy ones.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
the-
as you mentioned, they come back until and they try over and over again. The good news is perhaps they will fail again. But the bad news is they can choose to come back. And that's
Mhm.
really troublesome because people don't learn from history.
Yeah.
So,
right, people
So,
like Caligula.
right.
Caligula, and then you have
Nero.
King
Yeah.
Henry the Eighth, Nero,
Mhm.
Mussolini.
Right.
And then who the last one is here.
Yes.
That's the same
Yes.
person.
Everybody always wants to
That's the
bring him
same
up.
person.
There have been worse people. There really have. There's
mhm.
been a lot of bad people that have enslaved others or treated them poorly because they didn't have either the intelligence or the ability to be up here on this level. So, yeah.
Or damage the
That's
reputation of those who are up there on this
True.
level
That's true.
through lies and
Yeah.
sneaky play.
And deception. Yeah.
mhm.
Yep.
You know, I don't usually do political readings, but there was one time when we are doing practice readings where this came up, like political stuff came up, and I was told that it was a chance for the beings from Orion and Maldek to play out the karma or the experiences that they wanted to experience here.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
just continuing it,
Yep.
and they are going to continue it until they learn their lessons.
That's right. And who knows when that will. And, the other part of it is that people that have been subjugated or pushed down or killed or whatever, they're coming back to try to get their work right. And it's almost like it's a definition of insanity is what it is. It's like, let's come back. You be the bad guy. I'll be the good guy. And
Yeah,
I'll see you
and
next
they
lifetime.
play these roles out until we get tired.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
It's a need. They have this need to control other people.
Right.
They can't control themselves, but they feel they feel powerful and important by controlling other people.
Yeah.
Instead of working
Absolutely.
working
Absolutely.
for the service to others versus service to self.
Right. One
Is-
of the things we have to remember is that as much as people really don't like listening to hear about the orangutan or not, politics is really everything. And it's been everything on Orion. It's been everything on Lyra. It's not you're not talking about government sitting down and passing bills. That's not what I mean. It's the political climate where, let's stab each
Power.
other in the back. Yeah.
Of
it's
power.
Well, it is.
Well,
And it goes on everywhere. It doesn't.
Let's ask the question: Did he come through this whole planet thing through Orion down to Maldek and you know who I'm talking about? He.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did he come through
Mhm.
and landed here on Earth? Let's ask that question.
Okay.
I know where he didn't come through in Orion. And
Yeah.
he came through up there, up
Yep.
higher in the raised sword.
Ah.
Mm. I'm getting
So
a
is it
yes.
misuse
getting a
of
yes on it.
title is what you're saying? I'm not really clear on what you're saying, Diana.
Me or Diane? G.
You said, yeah, the sword or whatever.
Well, he came through Orion, but he came through on top in powerful position,
okay.
holding a
Okay.
weapon,
Holding a weapon.
right? Holding the huntsman's weapon, whether it's a club or a sword, because it's been described both ways.
Or a golf club. Yeah.
Our golf club. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry. This is a little bit political, but it is part of this.
It is part
Yeah,
of
it
it.
is a part of
A lot of people don't like to talk about it.
I know. It's just that, I never grew up wanting to talk about it or even interested in it, but this is life right now. This is our life. And
Yeah. I mean,
Warrior Widow has wanted some stuff answered here. She's getting, you need to listen, and other people are telling me the same thing. They're getting your need to listen. She says, I'm not listening, but I'm having a ringing in my ears 24/7, like I've never had before. It's constant but not consistent, changes pitches, pitch, pressure. Doesn't bother me, but it feels related. Thoughts, ladies? It is? Okay.
It is. It's okay. Let's go right to the solar flares, because that's where the pressure is coming from. But on those solar flares are also messages floating in the atmosphere, things that we may not be picking up, but the plasma shoots it out and brings it down to Earth. Then we have a geomagnetic storm and we get stuck, or the protons are hitting and activating the ions. And now we're feeling energetic, and then all of a sudden we collapse. That ringing are messages. There's patterns, there's tones. And even if we can't hear words from that, if you try to watch for the pattern of how often it rings, like all of a sudden I have a new tone coming in with a new pattern. What does that mean? So I have to watch and observe what is going on.
Is that a form of light language?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah. And even if the light language itself isn't coming off of the sun, what is traveling on the plasma that is coming our way is picking up the broadcast.
Yes, Warrior Widow. Do notice the pattern of what's happening around you.
Yes.
Everybody needs to spend a lot more time being present and looking, looking for what's around us. We don't tend to do that unless we make ourselves do it. Yeah.
And this is all related. I mean, what we're going through, we have already been through this.
Yeah.
If we have been going through this trip from Lyra to here to Earth, it's something that we've dealt with for a very long time.
Sure.
And it's
so
like it repeats itself.
So
it gives a chance to people to make different choices this time.
Yeah, true.
Right. He doesn't learn.
No, but he doesn't. May I take a minute?
The catalyst. That's all. He's just the catalyst.
Exactly.
There's a whole bunch of people that didn't learn and they follow him. So yeah, it isn't just him. That's true.
I'd like to take this a minute to bring in Elvis Presley.
Oh,
because he came in through Rigel. This is not a joke. He on the night he was born, a blue star appeared in the sky and shot a lightning bolt down to his little house in the woods. And he, I'm getting a little, because people don't know that he was very, very connected. He knew he came from Rigel. He talked about it all the time. He, since his death, is still a star, but many people have tried to sully his reputation. They sullied it while he was still young and on a rising star platform. They accused him of having orgies and all this other stuff, but what he was doing was being the light worker he was sent here to be. He was a twin, and his brother died in birth so that he could live, because he was not a genetical twin. He was from Rigel. He was an implant. And his brother died, and the night that his father took the stillborn baby and walked to the well, he was not the only one to see the event in the sky that announced the birth of Elvis. Elvis went on to devour books on all the metaphysical. He was never without one. Everywhere he went, he had 3, 4, 5 books going. He preached about metaphysics continuously. He died of cancer, not drug addiction. Was he given the wrong drugs? Absolutely. But he died of cancer.
Wow.
And he turned Graceland into something other than what it is now. He used it for his fans. It was a place for anyone who wanted to find some sanctuary could come and camp on his land. He opened it up. And because he's so connected, it's like, you know, they sullied Mary Magdalene and how all the wisdom she had to make her into something else to fit the scenario of power. So it isn't just in government, it's in music, it's in industry, it's in corporations, it's in governments.
Sports. Yeah.
It is in your neighborhood.
Mhm.
When the guy calls because your cat is in his yard, you know, things of that nature. So from the very mundane to this higher power.
Mhm.
And Elvis would have fought this person. And in reality, he never was near that person, and consider they would have been of the same age and generation, right?
Before we go, because we're almost at the top of the hour, I certainly would love to see that Amanda's question about addressing the Egyptian connections. I saw this in the book that I read, that Osiris, is it Osiris?
Yes,
And
Osiris.
Orion are both huntsmen.
Yeah.
And that the pyramids were set up to be aligned with Orion's belt. So ladies, go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Go
Right.
ahead.
The position of the stars in Orion's belt mirror the 3 pyramids in Egypt
Mm-hmm.
in position, which
Yep. Within just a fraction of an inch.
right. I mean, that has to. Those people had to have that connection.
Even in the sky, the stars, the 3 stars that are the belt, are almost the same distance apart in each of those 3. The space in between is almost exact.
And Aley, you came through Mintaka, right?
Yeah. Well, I was an earther, but I went to Mintaka.
You went to Mintaka.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, I probably largely stayed away from it because it was such a messy place. Even though I had something to do with it, I probably there as an Arcturian, since I was an Arcturian most of my time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to have made that choice because I think I was being trained for what I'm doing right now. Because
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've been told also that I spent some time in Andromeda, and that resonated with me. So, and the fact that you two, or maybe all of you, have been there as well.
Several times in Andromeda. I don't know what I was doing there. I mean, Andromeda is
it wasn't Soylent Green, don't worry.
It's an Andromeda galaxy, which is going to merge with the one that we're in, the Milky Way galaxy, in the future. Millions or billions of years. And then there's the constellation of Andromeda. I had no idea what it was doing there. But I know I was there several times. So it must have been something I needed to do there or learn or whatever. Probably that Diane knows a little more.
Well,
but then we're just going to answer the question about the connection between Egypt and Orion. For those who didn't know, Orion is one of the star systems that Egypt or the Egyptian civilization worked closely with. The other one is Sirius. So Orion beings, some of them came to Earth or incarnated in Earth to help us because they knew that we were going through the same things that they were. So this was after they turned to the light. They came to Earth to help us. So that's the connection.
Right. Orion, the light worker, the light warrior that is associated with Orion has his own armor. It's unique and it is spiritual. Its intrinsic qualities are courageous, wisdom, compassion, and the spiritual tools that I had mentioned earlier. And they are they're aligned with the esoteric guides, celestial beings, sacred geometry, frequency, vibrations, light codes. They're energy healers, Reiki, and they can do light surgery like Aley does. And then they move and they balance the energy. And that's a big thing with me is hand movement to whatever prayer I'm saying or whatever healing modality I'm using.
The strings.
Right. The string theory, the quantum touch, and the pranic healing. That is all associated with Orion warriors. Say that 3 times really fast. So
Orion warriors, Orion warriors.
Right. They have to tune into the highest self. You have to be capable of tuning into your higher self. So not all Orions are, because of why? Because they could have a little humanness in them, right? Or because they have bounced around so much from other planets that they have to go back to the shadow work. They have to go back to their core family. Not necessarily the family they're born into, but think of the soul contract and how we jump from, I was my own grandpa, I was my grandfather, now I'm the daughter, and once I was, and sometimes you just are friends with those 6 degrees of separation, right?
Sure. Yep.
So it is, we're caught in a trap. I can't look back. And that's the way it is now, because that beginning fragmentation of Lyra, think of how it shattered the universe, the Big Bang Theory, for lack of a better way of explaining it, sent those fragments all over. They couldn't all go to the same place to survive because they weren't connected any longer. So, there you go, all the way around.
Yep.
And with that comes your higher self. What does your higher self do? Meditates. And what happens when you meditate? You start getting downloads. Your ESP kicks in. Your ability to understand, even if you can't totally digest it, because suddenly it's about you. Like Paul, I have that same problem. If it's about me, I'm too close to this situation. It becomes hard to be objective, right? And it's like, which part of me is ego just kicking in? Right? And you don't want to toot your own horn on stuff like that. What are the challenges? Oh my gosh. Sensitivities, psychic attacks, emotional drainage, the need to be isolated, the need to go into our own quiet sanctuary mode, rather than to be isolated, as was Elvis in the end. So any one of us could get to that place where we're hiding high in April and shot down in May, right? Where everything is hunky-dory, and then all of a sudden the bottom drops out. We're here to learn a lesson, and somebody sullies our reputation as we're leaving this planet, right?
Wow. Do you know who the giants were in that war? Debbie wants to know.
The Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki. Okay.
Yeah.
They came through one of the stars of Orion. I think it was Mesa, or one of the top ones.
That other shoulder.
One of the shoulders, not Beetlejuice. Well, not Beetlejuice, but
the other one.
It was an offshoot of those people there. They eventually became the
throat. That's the one that came in through the throat.
The Anunnaki.
That's the star.
And they were the ones who came to Earth, and in the Bible it says, they took Earth women and they had what with them, and they created monsters and whatever.
There's another complete theme. Every time that there's a war, one of the spoils of war is they get to do what they want with the women. So yeah, absolutely, yeah. Wow.
So for all of us, because we are light workers, we are all susceptible to those things. We have probably come through Rigel at some point in time that has put us in this position of wisdom. And what do we do with those, knowing that those are our challenges, just as they are the warrior? Now we're the light warriors. We call ourselves that. We're light workers. How is that different from being a warrior? We have to put it all together, right? Mm-hmm. So the things we have to do is stay grounded, walk barefoot, wear copper. It's a great grounding tool. Grizzly, jump. Come on. Crystals and gemstones, cleansing, saging ourselves, lighting candles, letting that candle go out so the intention can get out there. These are the same old black magic practices that Merlin set into motion, however billions of years ago we want to go back, right? We're still doing them because there's nothing that screams camaraderie more than ritual.
That's very true. Yeah, it's very true. Hi, Garnet.
Who comes through the
last words?
Yeah, last words, everybody. Yeah, give you. Who comes to the back of the neck? Do you know? I don't know.
The back of the
I'm wondering if it's
the
just
back of the neck or your
to the throat,
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm hoping that would
chakra
be
back there at the base of this of the brain, but I don't know what it's
a
called.
Metatron. If you're talking about the medulla to the third eye, Sandalphon.
Yeah, yeah.
Raphael.
All good stuff. All good stuff. Play. Yeah. Wow. All right, Diane. What do you want to say to close us for today? Well, we got a lot more stuff to talk about, but it's just easier to do it in smaller pieces. Yeah.
So this has been a really interesting conversation. So we have been seeing a lot of cycles repeating. And I think if there's anything that I want people to take away from our conversation today is that these cycles are repeating. And it's our chance now to do something different to stop this cycle from happening again.
I can see this as a recycling of scraps of wool, and we're knitting it together, and we're creating a blanket of protection for all of us with that, which brings us back to threads and strings.
Sure.
And how we weave it together to help each other and stay in our light.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they learned something because I learned.
I did too.
Well, and I hope I didn't sound like a bully, but I just wanted to make sure that.
Oh no!
I mean, we have. There's two sides to a coin, so that polarity exists. It exists in the stars. It exists in your birth chart. It exists in the world. It exists within ourselves. You know, the little devil and the little angel and two.
Right. But, if we could work to integrate those two puppies, make them a new breed where we're more unified and not so dualistic. Yeah.
Like a chug. Chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug.
Let's just close the records here.
Okay.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, they closed.
Very good. All right, everybody. So we will be back in a couple of weeks. Not next Thursday, but the Thursday after. And we're going to talk about what area we'll go into at that point, and we'll bring it to you. Thank you all for being with us today on all the channels. And you have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aley. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Diane.
And everybody loves Grizzly. Okay, bye-bye.